Hello, everybody. Let's welcome some author in Books for Excellence show. Yes, friends, it's Books for Excellence show time. There's famous quote, so many books and so little time by Frank Zappa. So today we are going to add one more book in your collection, which is a must read by everybody. So let's welcome the multi-talented author Nilanjana Bhowmick from India. She is an independent journalist based in New Delhi. She has won numerous awards for reporting on gender and social justice. She has written and reported for some of the world's best media publications such as Time, the National Geographic, The Guardian, Washington Post, and many more. Her first non-fiction book, Lies Our Mothers Told Us, was published in June last year to wide popular and critical acclaim. Let me share a little about the book. Nilanjana Bhowmick's book helps break out from this carefully guarded silence and validates the inner lives, struggles, negotiations, and conflicts of women in the everydayness of their lives. I won't talk much about the book. Let's hear from the author herself. So welcome, Nilanjana, to our show.
Thank you so much for having me here, Charu. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. So yes, can you share details about your book, Nilanjana?
Well, I think, as the title suggests, the book examines the entire life cycle of Indian women. And when I say Indian women, I mean, including the diaspora, women who may have migrated abroad after marriage, or might have been born there, because I think one thing is very remains the same in Indian culture. I studied in the UK and worked there for 4 or 5 years, and I saw the same things there as well. Is that no matter how much you study, how much what your achievements are, there are certain rules and regulations, patriarchal impositions, I call them, that we all have to suffer or abide by. Sometimes we are they are we have internalized them because we have been the modern Indian women, in modern Indian families, they are sent to schools and colleges and higher education, sometimes encouraged to work also, but all of that seems to change after they are married, and then family responsibilities takes precedence. And I don't know any mother any Indian mother, whether in India or abroad, who has not told her daughter that now that you are married, your family will take precedence. I think like we all remember this this amazing incident that Indra Nuyji had shared, on her LinkedIn, as to how she had ran home to tell her mother about becoming the president, the first woman president of PepsiCo, and she said that stop it, first go and run and get the milk. We have run out of milk. And then she was very, very, very upset about that. So she came back and asked her that I came running to tell you such a good news, and you sent me to get the milk. And the mother said that leave your crown in the garage when you come home, because here you're a mother and a daughter. And this is a lie, as was certain lies that our mothers told us. They didn't mean them to be lies. They were hopes. They thought that if we educate our daughters and if we encourage them to work and stand and be financially independent, then their lives will change. They will be in a world where things will be more equal between both the genders. But that hasn't happened. And in my book, I talk about my mother and myself. I'm 46. So, there's like 4 decades, have passed, when she told me. I remember, like her constant thing was study, because your life will only change if you study. And she would not allow me to go into the kitchen. And she would just say that just study, you don't want to be, like just, relegated to the kitchen. But at the end of the day, when you get married, you have your own family, there are certain things you feel compelled to do, because you have been socialized from childhood to understand that there are certain things only women can do better. It's not true.
Yes,
caregiving, and emotional labor, cooking, cleaning. These are all life skills,
very
and
true.
men can do them as well as women. It's not a feminine superpower
Very
to
true.
cook and clean, or take care of the kids. So I think, in the book, we go through the entire life cycle of women, specifically in India, right, from childhood, when the socialization begins, when you start taking care of your younger siblings, or you start helping your mother around the house, and the book tries to basically, the main message I wanted to give out through the book is that, two things. Is that, women are socialized to become carers and nurturers, uh, and actually three things. And the second is that there's a lot of invisible abuse that goes on inside Indian homes, emotional abuse, but also physical abuse. But women, don't talk about it, because again, they have been socialized to understand that they are secondary in their homes. And especially women, who go out to work, they feel that they need to accept a lot of abuse, and do a disproportionate share of housework, caregiving, cooking, and everything, because, as a payout for being allowed to go out and have a life. And the third thing I think is that it's India has some very progressive laws and policies for women, but despite that, why has the progress been so slow? The progress has been slow because we have not been able to change societal attitudes. We have not Nobody wants to open the doors to their home and say, look, this is what happening in my home. And then, two other people will say, yes, this is also happening. That is how change comes.
Correct.
So, through my book, I open the doors to my home, to my parental home. And I hope that, it will help other women stand up, own their, past. There might have been abuse. There might have been, abuse is not always visible. Abuse is not always a slap or being locked in a room. Abuse is mostly emotional.
Very
So
true.
I'm hoping that, with the help of this book, women will be able to own to themselves. That's the first step. Own to themselves that, yes, this is how I was socialized. This is how I have internalized things that are, the gendered roles. Like, but there is no gender to anything. Work is work. Whether, you stay at home, and that's unpaid care, that is reproductive labor. It is also labor. So,
Correct.
when you go out and you're doing productive labor, and women who are doing, like, who work, also have the double shift of productive labor, plus, they have reproductive labor. But both
Very
are
true.
labors. Both, like, take out your energy, or, like, you are working, like a maniac. You are trying to balance everything. Your mind is in a tizzy.
Very
You are
true.
stressed all the time. You're not sleeping.
Correct.
Women, there was a survey, done by a non-profit in India once, and when they asked women that what is the one thing that they want the most. 80% of women said that they wanted to sleep.
Good dear.
Just imagine such a small ask.
Very, very true.
They wanted to sleep. So I have brought all of that. I interviewed a lot of women. There's a lot of my story in the book as well.
Okay.
And so I'm just kind of, trying to join the dots, because I feel that, like, everything is seen in silos. But when it comes to gender, when it comes to women's rights, you cannot, silo the problems. They all, they start from childhood, comes to us, when we are young women, then, when we are middle aged, and it continues through our life cycle. So that's what I'm trying to do, in the book. And I'm hoping that, women will read the book, pick it up, read it, and be able to stand up and say that, yes, this has happened to me, and I am not going to fall prey to this anymore. I am going to set this right, maybe through their daughters, maybe through their sons, maybe through their husbands. But, for women to stand up and say, this stops now, this
Very true.
changes now.
Wow. First of all, hats off to you, Nilanjana, because you have started this platform because somewhere it has to start. And when it starts, I'm sure it is going to give opportunity to many other women to come out of that hole and speak up and stand up for themselves. Because I'm sure it mustn't have been very easy for you to get together all the women, ask them to speak and share their personal stories with the world. Definitely, it's not an easy job which you have done. So really hats off for that. And so many
Actually,
other topics we are touching.
uh,
Yeah,
actually, Charu, the hardest thing was, I would say, talking about my parents, because my father was a very loving father. He really allowed us to study, and he allowed us to aim high. He put us in the best of colleges. But he was a very cruel husband. He was very cruel to my mother. My mother was a cop, and she had a very demanding job, but I have seen her like this double shift, and plus this emotional abuse from my father. So I think there is also this thing in our homes, in Indian homes, where fathers are really they can be loving, they're very loving to their daughters, but they are not nice to their wives. And I think a lot of the dilemma Indian daughters have is that, but my father or my papa or my dad is so loving, he has never abused me, he has never so how can I speak up against him? But see, at a certain level, if you're a daughter, you will come to a stage when you will start looking at your mother as a
correct.
woman, uh, and not just your mother. And and if you can't do that, then it is an injustice to the person who has given birth to you,
Very
who has
true.
probably sheltered you more from the vicissitudes of life than
Correct.
any other have. And I think at a point of time, women have to stand up and say that you were wrong, you mistreated mom. And as I said, that mistreatment doesn't always mean slapping or beating or like whatever. It's not always physical abuse. Emotional abuse is even more debilitating.
Very true.
It leads to depression, it leads to stress, it leads to suicides.
Very true.
The rate of suicide among Indian housewives is so much. It's has been on an increase since the 1990s. In any other country, this would have created havoc. There would be studies, nothing. Since the 1990s, women are killing themselves. Housewives, are killing themselves at an alarming rate. And when we say housewives in India, there is a conundrum, because a lot of women, uh, even if they work, they will say, if a surveyor comes and says, what do you do? They will say, we are a housewife,
Okay.
because they always feel that their job is so tiny compared to what their husbands do, that their job, so they are not working women, they are housewives who do something on the side. So but the point is that all these women, whether they're housewives or whether they're informal workers, they might be working as a tailor or like a teacher or a beautician, whatever, all these women who are killing themselves, and the number is progressively increasing every year, and it has not created any furor. Just imagine how little women mean in this country.
Very true. I think we have to make noise about it so that it reaches to the right ears and we have some steps from the right
No,
authorities.
I feel that noises have been made. The government, what can the government do? The government can make laws and policies, right? But it can't barge into your home and like make you follow those laws and policies. Like say, for example, property rights, right? All Indian women have the same property rights as men. Yeah, just yesterday I was talking to this woman. She's a very like she works in the media. She's educated, and she was just telling me the story about how her parents started out by giving her equal share in the property, and then her brother ran into some trouble, and they just suddenly like disowned her from everything, just saying
Oh,
that your brother needs it more. And when she said, but what about me? And then they started saying, how can you be so selfish? So see, here's the thing, right? You
yeah,
have the right,
but
but
you don't have.
you have to go up against your family to claim that right. And I'm saying that we have, yes, there is need to create noises, and because women have created noises, that's why we have voting rights, we have property rights, we have many other rights, right? But the point is that women are not making noise inside their homes. That is where we need to make the noise. When we make noise inside our homes, that combined with the noise outside, that is when we will be able to uh, uh, get to change,
Very
get to
true. It's
change the
such a
status
strong
quo.
point you have mentioned because that mindset change is, I think, the urgent requirement at present. So that power to speak, to stand for oneself, and to
Yeah.
not accept the wrongdoing, that can really help in for any woman to progress further in life. So, what sparked your interest in becoming a book author? I mean, this idea was there from the beginning, or it just happened? Some incident happened? Can you share something?
I mean, I'm a journalist, so I think, natural
That
progression of my profession is to write a book. But no,
definitely.
but jokes apart, I've always wanted to be a writer, but not. I never planned to write nonfiction because, nonfiction. I mean, what I write is nonfiction as a journalist, right? Um, excuse me. But so I was, writing my novel, and I write poetry. So at a certain point of time, I would have sort of, um, transitioned, to being a writer. But so I wrote a opinion piece for the Washington Post about, how feminism was failing a large chunk of women in India. And then, I was contacted by an US agent, and she said that, why don't you write a book? This is such an interesting subject, and, I'm sure, people would love to read about this. So that's, like, she really insisted, and, I started working on a proposal, and while working on a proposal, I saw that, there was this chance, because, gender stories are hard to sell in the media. In the mainstream media, so you have to like really fight a lot, or there has to be some sensational angle to it, or some Women's Day, or something, it's very hard. So there were so many stories I wanted to tell that I have never been able to tell, and while doing the proposal I realized that this is how I can tell all the stories
Yes.
in one book.
One go. Yeah.
And then obviously I mean the thing didn't work out with the agent, because I decided to make the book very India specific, because I felt like women in India needed more. I mean, and the problem was so much, like so much bigger in magnitude. I think in the South Asian continent, especially in patriarchal countries, it's the same thing, right? In India or any other patriarchal countries, women suffer a multitude of problems, which are rooted in socio-cultural norms, or the so-called traditions. So then I wanted to make it very India specific, and that's how it all came about. And I wrote it in 2 years, because I was also like a full-time journalist, full-time mother, uh, all of that. So yeah, I mean, it took me around 2 years to
Two
finish that,
years.
like from beginning to the end. Like there are also revisions, because my publisher, Aleph, and my editor, Puchita Krishnan, she was like amazing. She really helped me um figure out the story that I wanted to tell, because there was a point of time where I got lost in the book. Like
Okay.
I just didn't know, like it happens, when you're researching and all, then you lose the ability to, you lose the focus. So she
Yeah.
was great, she really, like helped me, narrow down the story and tell a story that touched people, but also a story that was very neat and tidy. It was not all over the place. It was very neat and tidy. It had a very good structure. So I think I'll give her all the credit, like for how
Wow.
the
Good to know.
final book is, reading. And this thing, I'm seriously, if I had probably given this book to someone else, the outcome would probably have been very different. But Pujita really, she really, helped me, because we were on the same page right from the beginning. We were on the same page, and she knew what I was saying, even when I was not saying it. So,
Okay.
like that is
Wow.
like
That
very, very
connection was
fortunate.
there. That connection
That
was
that
there.
connection is very fortunate for any writer.
Wow, wonderful to know. So now can we talk about the criticism parts, how you have handled that? And is it happening and you're facing some issues about the book, some negative reviews or something?
I when the book first released, every day, every morning I woke up and I was like, oh my God, somebody must have said something bad about it.
Yeah.
I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academic. I'm a journalist. I write from my lived experiences. But feminism, unfortunately, has remained an sort of an academic,
Okay.
area
Mhm.
in India. And I wanted to break out of that. I wanted to tell a story, and I wanted to make feminism approachable to women who were scared of feminism. There are so many women who are scared of feminism because they feel that, oh my God, God only knows what it is. Maybe it's about, hating men, or, going out on the streets and nare lagana.
Yeah,
But it's
that's
not
famous
that. Yeah,
branding for feminism. Yep.
yeah, exactly. So I just wanted them to feel that, being a feminist simply means, standing up for yourself and, other women.
Very true.
But simple as that. So and then I would wake up every day thinking, ki,
Something is
today
there.
I'm sure. And especially I was very, scared of the response from the, like from some, really, like, like there are certain, people that I'd really look up to. But I think, touch wood, till date, I have not had a negative review. I'm sure it will
Wow.
come. I'm sure it will
That's all.
come. But I am like kind of, I'm like better prepared now. But so far, there has not been a single bad review. So I've been
Fantastic.
very fortunate in that. Yes.
Wonderful. So, what advice you want to give to the aspiring writers who are just starting out in their careers? And can you share what do you wish you had known when you first began writing? Some tips you have to share.
Lots, I mean, I think writing your first book is a lesson in itself. You really, when you go on to your second book, you already know how to structure it. Writing a first book is a very chaotic exercise because, your mind is all over the place and you want to tell this story and you want to tell that story. So, there's a lot of chaos, but I think you own that chaos and you just move along. And the second time around, it will be much better. My advice is just write from the heart and everything will fall into place.
Beautiful advice. I think when we do work from heart, we get the guidance and step by step things happen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, anything
I
cooking
mean,
up in your mind?
no, I mean, no one can, no, don't fall for all these courses that claim to teach you to write. No one can teach you to write.
I
It's a talent, A, and B, it's practice. You have to show up every day. You have to show up and write 500 words every day.
very true.
Whether you use it or not, it doesn't matter. It's practice and it's talent, both taken together. There are no shortcuts. And I mean, and nobody can teach you to
How
write better. They can teach you, maybe, I don't know actually what the writing courses teach, but I don't think writing is something, it's my personal opinion. I don't think, writing can be taught
can be
to
taught it
anyone.
to anybody.
Yeah.
So, any idea cooking up now for your second book, or you will be contemplating about it?
So I am, like working on 2 proposals, and what I really want to do is like, at the moment, my energies are focused on finding, a literary agent for my novel. So it's a feminist speculative fiction, and I'm looking for an agent, like to sort of, to sell it. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. And I am working on a few proposals. My mind is always, like churning out things.
Yeah,
So, well, fingers crossed, something will work out.
come up. Wow, we will look forward
Yes.
for. So, last
Yes.
question, Nilanjana, please share a message for Womenlines audience.
Stand in your power always and learn to say no. That's the most powerful word in a woman's life. No.
No, it's such a fantastic tip you have given. Take a note, friends. Dare to speak no if you're not comfortable in life. So, all the best, Nilanjana. Thank you so much for your time. Take a note, friends. We will be sharing the link in the content section. Do get the book and share in your network. And let's get together to uplift women across the globe. Take care, Nilanjana. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
All right.